Ribs are a project dish, or they have that reputation. Perhaps it's their intimidating appearance, a big rack of bones. Perhaps it's because they're part of that culinary tradition known as barbecue, which can be overwhelming if you are used to doing all of your cooking indoors or don't have a grill. But you can make ribs in the oven, even if that oven is in a tiny apartment. And they will taste very good. Oven ribs won't taste exactly like ribs that have been smoked over coals. But that's alright. There are ways to imitate that smoky flavor, but there's also nothing wrong with ribs that are simply sweet and sticky with tender, supple meat that pulls cleanly off the bone. Imitating smoked on the grill ribs requires liquid smoke and prog powder, only one of which you are likely to have in your pantry. You can read the Amazing.com guide on how to utilize those ingredients, but again, there's nothing wrong with making tender ribs that taste only of pork in your favorite rub, and it's easy. There are 3 stages to cooking ribs in your oven: foil wrapped roasting, naked roasting, broiling. The first 2 steps take 2 hours each. The last takes all of 5 minutes. But before you get to that, you need to do a tiny bit of prep work. First things first, you gotta get rid of the membrane that runs along the back of the rack. Unless you wish to spend valuable mouth minutes chewing on a tough membrane. To recap, this membrane is easy to spot and even easier to remove, unless you are partaking in the liquid smoke and prog powder method. You only need 2 things to flavor your ribs: a rub and a sauce. Both can be store-bought. But if you love mixing your little powders and or liquids together to create a bespoke rib experience, be my guest. There are a ton of good recipes out there for both rubs and sauces. For a rub, I used Meathead's amazing smoked pork seasoning and dry brine because Meathead is a friend and he sent it to me. And because it's really good. For a sauce, I used Sweet Baby Ray's, another fine product. Shake the rub all over the ribs to create an even opaque layer. If your rub contains salt, skip salting your ribs if it doesn't. Season each side of the rack with 1 teaspoon of coarse kosher salt before adding the rub. If your oven cannot accommodate a full rack of ribs, cut the rack in half. Wrap each section in foil, and you're ready to roast. Heat your oven to 225 degrees Fahrenheit. Place the foil-wrapped ribs on sheet pan and roast for 2 hours. Unwrap the ribs, place them back on the pan and roast for another 2 hours. To test for doneness, grab the middle of the rack with tongs and give them a jiggle. If the surface cracks to reveal an inch or so of meat, they're ready. Once the meat cracks, it's time to sauce them up. Brush the bony side with your favorite sauce. Then broil for 2 to 5 minutes until the sauce starts to bubble and caramelize. Flip over and repeat with the other side. There. You just made a rack of delicious ribs without stepping foot outside.